It's the run to the line. Workman's off the track. He's got all 4 Michelin's over the white line. He's defending.
Everything interesting happens off the racing line.
We are trackside at Homestead-Miami Speedway with Westin Workman. He's a 2-time national karting champion, the 2021 Spec MX-5 scholarship winner, 2023 MX-5 Cup Shootout champion, 2024 MX-5 Cup Rookie of the Year. He's only 20, and I'm like, this laundry list.
It's going to take up the entire show if you keep
I didn't
going.
even know I had that many accolades.
And the 2025 GR Cup champion, all at just 20 years old and while attending college. Flying in from North Carolina to come chat with us and visit us here in Miami, Westin Workman. It's good to have you, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
You wanted to get away from the cold a little bit.
I did, yeah. So this is my first time in Florida in December, and I was ripping layers off on the plane as soon as we hit the Florida air. It got hot on the plane. I didn't even get off the plane yet.
I figured an invitation to come down to Miami in the wintertime for just about anybody's like, okay.
It doesn't suck down here in December.
No, it doesn't. All right, let's get started. Let's start with your karting.
Mm-hmm.
You started in karting. Talk to me a little bit about your karting background. Your dad was an influence.
He was.
How did that happen?
Yeah, so it really started just from car culture. He was just into motorsports, into modifying cars, and I got into cars at a very young age. Like, I was just pointing out cars in the parking lot, naming the manufacturer and the model before I could even say mommy and daddy. So that's kind of where it stemmed from.
Does your dad race?
He never raced. He actually played hockey in high school and college, so very different from racing. I dabbled in hockey a little bit, but I think I was too young at the time.
So whose idea was to get into karting?
It was his. So he took me to an indoor go-karting track. I started doing some of the youth leagues and the summer camps and things like that. And I really took to it. I really enjoyed it. And then I won my first summer camp, and that was my first taste of winning. And I remember that feeling. I felt it in my chest. I was just like,
it's a high.
Yeah, I want to feel this forever. Like,
yes,
how can we make
you
this
want
happen?
more.
Yes.
And you're doing a good job at that.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying.
Yeah, from the intro, it sounds like chess. Yep, done. Right?
Yeah. All right, let's talk about you being a car guy. This is something we talked a little bit about. Not all racers are car guys, which is kind of surprising to me.
Yes.
The more and more racers that I talk to, they're just like, I race them. I don't work on them, and I don't collect them. I don't care for them. You are a car guy.
I am. Yes.
What kind of cars do you like?
So I really enjoyed Japanese cars. So my dad, he had a Mark IV Supra growing up, and he's been the original owner of that for a long time. He's had multiple different turbo setups on it and things like that. And that was my first introduction to modifying cars and being interested in just JDM cars and things of that nature. So I now have 2 Lexus IS300s, a wagon, and a sedan. The sedan, we've done a lot of work to. It's lowered, it's on wheels, body kit, engine swap, different transmission, like everything has been touched on that car.
And you go to car meets?
I do, yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about that because we've had an episode when we kind of discussed the differences between car meetup culture versus track culture and the racing culture. I would imagine for you, it's I don't know. I want to get your take because you go to car meets and people are like acting like their cars are a race car.
Yeah.
and you know better. So what's that like?
It's funny because as a race car driver, right? People are always like, oh, you probably drive fast on the street. You get a lot of speeding tickets. Like, no, not really. We get all that out on the racetrack. Like, I'm very tame on the street, even though I've been pulled over 3 times. I'm contradicting what I'm saying right now, but I get all of it out on the racetrack, so I don't drive crazy on the street. And it's interesting too, like the car culture and the racing culture is very different, right? Because when you see a build that you like, you go over to the owner, you ask them what they've done to their car and things like that. But in the racing culture, right, you don't really do that. Like, everybody stays in themselves and tries to keep a secret.
It's probably not
the speed
it's
secrets,
not welcomed.
Right? Exactly. Yeah, you can't go to another team and like, hey, what'd you do to this car? Like, what are you doing to make it so fast?
Hood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's where car culture is very different. So I like being a part of those 2 different worlds.
Yeah, it's a difference between obviously the HPTE environment and actual
Exactly.
competition environment, right?
Yes.
HPD, you're just hired for your track time. People are much more welcoming and talk about stuff. But obviously, yes, if you're competing against somebody in the garage next to you, go away.
I would say yes. HPDE, track day, it's a lot more welcoming. Like, hey, like, what kind of tires are you running? Let me see, the engine bay. Yeah, but in racing,
the crew chief next to you is not going to tell you about their tire pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so you have the Lexus. What's your favorite car?
Of all time?
Yeah.
The Lexus LFA.
Oh,
The other
Well,
thing.
yeah,
Nothing wrong with that choice.
that's an easy one. All right, let's talk about the Mazda Shootout.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that you had won the MX.
The Spec MX-5.
The Spec
shootout.
MX. Yes.
Yes.
So in talking with Noah, he let us know that that's where you start, and then you go from there to the Mazda Shootout for the MX5 Cup, right?
Yes.
So tell me about that the first one, and then how you went to the shootout.
Yeah, so the first one was interesting. So I was a part of the inaugural Spec MX-5 shootout. So the Spec MX-5 shootout hasn't been around for as long as the MX-5 Cup shootout has. So the MX-5 Cup shootout has been going on for, probably before I can even remember. But the Spec MX-5 shootout was brand new in 2020. And it was kind of a weird introduction on how I got invited to it, because like as a young kid, right, like I'm not thinking about sports cars, I'm not thinking about Miatas, like I want to be an F1 driver, an IndyCar driver, right? I'm thinking about open wheel. So I got this opportunity from eKarting News. It's the main news anchor for karting in the US. They came to me, they were like, hey, would you be interested in a sports car path and in Mazda? And they had reached out to my dad at first. And then my dad told me about it. I'm like, I don't really know. Like I want to be an F1 driver, right?
Yeah.
But then I started to get older, and realizations started to come into play and things like that. And I'm very happy I took the opportunity. So they put my name in for a nomination to be in the Spec MX-5 shootout. I think that year there were probably 30 or 40 nominees. And
this was 2023?
2020.
2020.
This is 2020.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was 16 at the time. I had just gotten my license. So this is at the time where they weren't even picking people coming out of Spec Miata. They were picking straight from karts to cars, and they quickly realized that was a bad idea, because a lot of us didn't know how to drive a manual transmission, never been in a race car before, never driven a manual transmission. There are a lot of different things that they realized that they couldn't do just with go-kart drivers.
Sure.
But that was before they realized that. So yeah, I got nominated, and then I sent in the video, the resume.
Right.
And then I was selected as one of the 12 to go down to Road Atlanta. Yep. Road Atlanta being my first ever racetrack I've been on, which probably wasn't a good idea either for people coming straight out of go-karts. But yeah, I went down there, and it was a really, really great experience. Like, it was during COVID as well, so a lot of the executives weren't there. Like, a lot of the meetings we did was a phone call.
Okay.
So with the shootout, right, it's not a race or a competition. It's more of an evaluation of who you are, what you can bring to Mazda, how you market yourself, how you talk to people, how personable you are, all those different types of things. And I wasn't used to that. Like, I consider myself an introvert, so talking to all these people, I was a little nervous, I was a little shy. I could just drive a car. Like, that's all I really knew how to do.
You were probably like, hey, do we really have to do this? Just put me in the car, I'll show you what I can do.
Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. I didn't end up winning it the first year.
Okay.
It's funny, that year, it was actually, Connor Zilish was competing at the time. That was the first Spec MX-5 shootout. And him and another guy, I think it was Alex Bertignoli, like, they were the fastest two kids there. Alex Bertignoli was another name who was really good in go-karts, but neither of them won. The two guys who were expected to win ended up crashing the car, and they said before the shootout started, if you wreck the car, you're not being chosen. And they kind of regretted saying that, because those were the two best guys, so they couldn't pick them. So they ended up going with two alternatives, and one of those alternatives wasn't me. But yeah, that was my first introduction to.
Wait, so Connor crashed the car?
He did.
Oh.
Yeah. He didn't. I think he sideswiped. I think it was turn one.
They just didn't want any contact.
Yeah, as soon as you drop a wheel in turn one at Road Atlanta, it sucks you right off the track.
Got it.
And he was a victim of that.
So the MX-5, the shootout for the MX-5, that you won that one, and I think it was in 23.
I won the Cup Shootout in 23, and I won.
And that was here. At Homestead?
No, that was I was at Carolina Motorsports Park in South Carolina.
Okay.
Yes. And then I won the Spec MX-5 shootout in 2021.
Right.
So I think I'm one of the few people, or if not the only person, who's ever competed in the shootout 4 times and won it on their second try both times.
So when we spoke with Noah Harmon, he told us that the shootout was a lot more stressful than any point in the season for the MX-5 Cup.
Yes.
Would you agree
I
with
would
that?
completely agree with that.
Really?
I remember going into my second MX-5 Cup Shootout and wanting it so bad. Like, my foot was shaking on the gas pedal doing my laps. I wanted to win so bad. Yeah, I don't know what about it makes it so nerve-wracking. Maybe because it's not a race and you know everybody's looking at you. I don't know.
Maybe the unknown, right? Because you're out there by yourself. You're not racing, so when you're racing, you know the guy in front of you, you have to pass him. So it's sort of easy, right? But there's evaluations. How did you do off track?
Well, and I think also probably from the spotlight standpoint, right? There's fewer of you there versus a field of however many cars are out there, and also the payday, right? The payoff, right? The 150 grand is a lot more than you're getting for winning one race. So.
Yes, and that's the most nervous I've ever been in a race car. Yes.
And you've done a lot since then, so that's saying something.
Yes.
Wow. Let's talk about your 2024 rookie season for the MX-5 Cup. You won Rookie of the Year.
I did, yes.
Did Mazda make the right decision?
I think you're asking the wrong. You'd have to ask them. I'd hate to be the person and be like, yeah, they made the right decision.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Okay, so you win the shootout.
I did.
And then you win Rookie of the Year.
Not much
that
more
sort
you
of
could do.
Stamps it like Mazda. You made the right choice. You picked the right guy.
You can say
right?
it. It's okay. We all know that you're thinking.
Yes, we all know the answer.
Because going into it, I didn't want to just limit myself to Rookie of the Year. I wanted to become a champion and be the first rookie to become a champion. That didn't end up happening, obviously. The Rookie of the Year
but you were close.
Yeah, I was close. I won 2 races, which was pretty cool in my rookie season. But yeah, Rookie of the Year was a very cool achievement for me. For sure.
One of the things that I wanted to do with you, and I don't have the video here, we start every episode with the Sebring race.
Yep.
When you were, that was your rookie season.
It was. That was my first win too.
Second race at Sebring.
Race 2, yes.
And final lap, you're leading, and it's the most amazing thing. One of the most amazing races that I've watched, and it that moment kind of inspired the name for Off the Racing Line, right? And so I remember I talked to you on the phone, and I called you. I'm like, hey man, it kind of makes sense for you to be on the program because you're driving.
Mascot.
Yeah, a mascot. We don't have the video here, but we can do an overlay. Can you walk us through maybe the last half of that lap? What was going through your mind? Last lap, white flag is out. Talk us through that.
I've been excited to talk about this. So it started in race 1. So in race 1 on the last lap, Tyler Gonzalez was leading, who's my teammate this year, very good driver.
With BSI.
He's racing with BSI.
Right.
He raced with BSI this year, yes.
Okay.
But he didn't race with them last year, which is the time of this happening. Okay. So race 1, he was leading, going down the back straightaway. He didn't block all the way down to the wall. The guy in second, I can't remember who it was, passed him under the line, and Tyler didn't end up winning the race. And I watched that race back after the day, and
you're like, that's not going to happen with me.
Yeah, not going to happen to me. But you have to be in the lead for that not to happen to me, right? So I made sure I put myself in that position. So it was me and my teammate Connor Zilish at the time. We led majority of the race. We took turns. So when you get hot in MX5 Cup, your teammate will pass you and you'll lead a couple laps.
Right.
The person behind will get hot and then you'll switch, right? So we kept doing that.
Really?
We were working really good together. And even on the restarts too, he would give me a signal when we were going and we would have a 5-car gap by the time we got to turn 1. So that was really cool.
That's a hell of a team right there.
Yeah, we were working really good together. We were shaking and baking, for sure. So I happened to be the car leading coming into the last few laps. I led the majority of the last half of the race. And then it was coming down the last lap, I was that scenario was playing in my head, right?
Before you go into the back straight, I remember watching the video, and coming out through Bishop's Bend. If you zero in on Westin, this is him.
Sawing at the wheel.
Holy cow! Yeah, the car is doing what it's supposed to, but he's just sawing the wheel.
And funny you mentioned that because that actually wasn't on purpose. I was dragging the brake coming into the last couple corners because I didn't want to have a big gap in front of the field. I like to call MX5 Cup a high-speed chess game, right? Because usually the fastest guy doesn't win the race. It's who had the best plan throughout the race and who use their surroundings to their best advantage. So I was dragging the brake to not have a huge gap so they didn't have a run to pass me on the back straightaway. And I got hit, and that's what caused me to get sideways.
Okay.
But coming onto the back straightaway at Sebring, turn 16, I just immediately go down to the wall.
Yeah.
Nobody's driving under me. And Connor, he was behind me, so I'm looking in my mirror. I'm trying to assess the situation, right? Connor's behind me, so he's most likely not going to pull out on me.
Yeah.
If the guy behind him pulls out on him, he's going to stay behind me because there's more of a draft there. So if the guy in third pulls out, he's going to have no run, right? So I'm in a really good position right here, right? So I'm down to the wall blocking. Dust is kicking up because nobody's ever driven down there, right?
It's off the racing line.
I'm just hoping I don't get a flat tire here and run over a nail or something because nobody ever drives all the way down there. So they pull out. They have a little bit of a run to my outside. And then I kind of just park the bus, right? I don't want anybody else going under me. If they go to my outside, cool, that's fine. So they went to my outside, and he kind of got a little bit further ahead of me than I wanted him to. So I just released the brake, right, and kind of doored him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then
you guys were going sideways through there.
He went out of the way, and then I come through and ended up winning my first MX-5 Cup race, which is a really,
and that was
really
by
cool
like the
feeling.
smallest margin.
It was. I didn't even know I won.
0.00 like 9.
Yeah,
or something like that.
It was very, very small, very, very small margin. But I have to come over the radio and be like, who won that? And then they don't come back to me for like 10 seconds. I'm driving around the track. I don't know I won the race.
Yeah.
They're like, you won? I'm like, oh my God.
At first they thought it was Connor that had won.
They did,
announcers.
yeah. Even the announcer said that. Like, Zillish is going to win it. No, it's Workman. I watched that race so many times.
Me too.
It was a really, really cool feeling.
Now, it's one thing to go down the backstretch at Sebring off the racing line, right? And yeah, you're going to put up with all the dirt and the dust. And, the track's dirty in there. But I assume that then meant that you went all the way through 17, at least a half a car length or a car width inside of where you normally did. Like, what was that going through there the first time that you ever tried it? It was with that much on the line.
If there wasn't a car on the outside of me, I probably would have washed up the track.
Have you practiced that?
I haven't, no.
So he's just like, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Mike and I have driven Sebring hundreds of times. Hundreds. And obviously, we're doing the Super Lap Series, which is a timed competition. It's a time attack. And so, yes, nobody's getting in our way, and we go as far left as possible going into 17, and the turn-in. In our cars, we're turning in at 140 miles an hour. And so when I saw you take your entry to 17 in the inside, I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, what could possibly be going through your head? Were you just like, I hope it holds?
Yeah, I mean, because in that moment, right, I'm like, I'm not losing this race.
It's either win or wreck.
I led all these laps.
Check
I'm not
or
losing.
record.
Like if I don't win, it's okay. I know I tried. But if I won, like, I'm glad I went for it. And I was going to be disappointed in myself if I didn't try to go for it and do everything in my power to win that race.
But based on what you had learned from race 1, you knew if you took the standard line, somebody else was going to go inside.
It would have been impossible for me to win.
The only way for you to win was to do what you tried to do, even though nobody had ever tried it before.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that was an amazing finish to that race. The Daytona crash that same year, were you involved in that one?
This year, yes. That was a different year, but yes, I was involved in this one this year.
Yeah. The one
there's always a wreck at Daytona. It's easy to get them confused.
I really shouldn't have been because I had an issue in qualifying. I had ran over somebody's rear tire and then broke the toe link, so I wasn't able to qualify. So I started in the back of both races.
With Noah?
Yep.
You guys were
back there. I started in the back with Noah. And I see the crash happening in front of me. I slow down. I get out of the way. I'm down on the grass, completely out of the way, right? I'm like, I'm going to make it through this. Car comes spinning backwards behind me. Boom! I'm like, how did they hit me?
I saw that one.
I did such a good job of avoiding it. I was like, I'm completely out of the way.
I got it. Boop,
nope. You'll have to put the clip over that because this car just comes spinning backwards behind me.
We used that same clip with Noah, and he just narrowly escaped through there. You're the one that just didn't make it.
Try as you might.
Wow.
The cards.
All right. Well, I'm glad that we had a chance to do that, man. My whole intent was to show a video, but at the studio is a lot easier, But here, we don't have the technology. How do you like the set, man?
The set is amazing. I love it.
The Speedway is kind of cool,
right?
I mean,
I love our studio, but this isn't half bad.
No, and I mean this winter in Miami,
it's hard to tell it's winter because it's
very
84 degrees.
I was going to be racing this weekend with Farah. Like it's pretty cool. All right, let's talk about the GR Cup Series. Absolutely amazing 2025 season. You scored victories at Sebring, VIR, Barber, and Indy.
Yes.
To finish the 2025 GR Cup as a GR Cup champion. I saw your interview when you were announced as the champion. You were very emotional. So I know how you were feeling, but walk us through that.
Yeah, I would honestly say my first win in GR Cup this year was the most emotional I've ever been over a race. So I've been competing in GR Cup for 2 years now. And last year I came so close to winning so many times, but my teammate Gresham Wagner, he always just edged me out. I finished second, I think it was 9 times last year with no wins. So that was a very hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
And then this year when I finally won my first race, and this was kind of like well into the season as well. This was after two events. So we had gone through Sonoma, finished second. We had gone through Coda, finished second again. I was like, am I ever going to win one of these? Like, am I just cursed at this point? And then at Sebring.
Were you ever thinking, maybe MX5 Cup is where I should be at? You know?
And it's funny because the tables turned. So I won 2 MX5 Cup races last year.
Yeah.
And no GR Cup wins, but won no MX5 Cup races this year and won 6 GR Cup races.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's funny how it kind of turned around on itself. But
Okay.
yeah, but Sebring this year was very emotional. Like, the race finished, checkered flag waved. I was fine in the car, and then the woman Amanda came over to start interviewing me, and I got emotional.
Have you seen that
I
interview?
have not seen it.
We'll put an overlay.
Yeah.
It was like I felt it.
Yeah.
Like you were fighting back the tears. Like it was, you can feel how
Yeah.
excited you were.
Because I had never been interviewed by her before, so
Yeah.
it was
Is she
always
a big deal?
A little bit, yeah, but it was more of a big deal to me because she always interviewed the winners, right? And I was always finishing second. I
Sure.
would kind of see it out of the corner of my eye, right? Like,
Yeah,
dang,
that's gonna be me one day.
I want to be interviewed, and
Yeah.
she was finally able to interview me, so it was a really cool feeling for sure.
That's
Well, you
awesome.
talked to her so many times now. You guys are like best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
You send each other Christmas cards and stuff. Yeah.
I think I have this question further down, maybe somewhere else, but I'm gonna ask it. Who was the bigger wreck, or emotionally, as far as a wreck goes, when you won that championship? Was it you, your dad, or your mom?
Ooh.
It sounds like they were all very emotional.
It would probably be a tie.
Yeah?
I would honestly say if it had been a closer championship and it was kind of down to the wire and came to the last race, I think it would have been more emotional.
Right.
But because we kind of exceeded our expectations throughout the year,
Sure.
we almost kind of knew that I was going to be the champion. And even at so it was at Barber Motorsports Park when I won the championship.
Right.
With still 2 races to go, we still had Indy left. Yeah, it was more of joy than tears or anything like
Right.
that. I think the tears might have came at the banquet after everything set in.
Sure.
But yeah, because we exceeded our expectations, I wouldn't say it was really that emotional, and I kind of wanted it to be emotional, but I still don't even feel it. Like,
Really?
I'm kind of glad I don't, because it would almost be a weight lifted off my shoulders. But I don't want to feel that. I'm still just as hungry to go get more championships, get more wins, keep progressing in this.
You're like,
industry.
what's next?
Yeah, exactly.
On to the next
yeah,
task.
Feed me. I'm ready.
I love the hunger, man.
Yeah, for sure.
That's awesome. I saw that there was other MX5 Cup drivers in the GR Cup. What are some of those drivers?
Jeremy Fletcher, who won
Fletcher.
the MX5 Cup Championship this
Right.
year, he races in GR Cup. He kind of came in at the back half of the season. He was really fast throughout the year. Ethan Goulart, who won a race in the MX5 Cup this year, he did
Okay.
a whole season of GR Cup. Who are some others?
Do those two chassis kind of go hand in hand? Is it easy to go from one to the other?
It's easy for me now, but I would say because they're so close but have their little differences, that's what makes it harder. It would
Right.
be much easier if they were 2 completely different cars.
Right.
But because they're kind of the same, that's what makes it hard to go back and forth from each car.
Okay.
And because on paper they look the same, right? Similar horsepower, similar weight, same exact transmission. But there's just little nuances to them that make each of them go a couple tenths faster that I've learned. And that's what makes it hard to go back and forth. I would say the GR Cup car has more kind of little nuances to it than the MX-5 Cup
Really?
car. Yeah.
Was there a favorite moment in the GR Cup season for you? Like one that just kind of stands out? Maybe a
the
victory?
first win at Sebring.
The
for
first
sure.
win.
Yeah, the first win at Sebring.
But you had already won there in the MX-5 Cup.
I had, but it was my first GR Cup race win, and I had been trying for so long to get a GR Cup win because my GR Cup campaign didn't start in 2024. I had done my first race in GR Cup in 2023 with a team called Smooth Racing, which is now Rafa Racing. So I did my first race with them in 23, and I finished third in my first ever GR Cup race. So I had been trying to win one of those races for longer than just
So
a
that
year,
one was
almost 2
special
years.
at
Yes,
Sebring.
very, very special.
How do you like Sebring?
I love Sebring.
Yeah?
Especially now that I've won there.
That's your home track now.
Yeah, I love that track. And even before I'd started running well there, it's always been a favorite track of mine. I don't know why. I think it's just the character that it has. A lot of people don't like the bumps, but I like the bumps.
Respect the bumps.
Yeah, it's almost like the bumps put you in flow state at Sebring, especially through turn one, coming off the exit. You're kind of just riding the bumps out to the exit. I love turn one.
I feel like the fillings in my teeth are gonna fall out every time I go through there.
So you're one of the people that hates it for that.
No, I love Sebring.
I love it for that. I love it.
I love Sebring. I just how my teeth feel I don't like, but I love the track.
Yeah.
Like I can't wait to go. Every time I go there, I kid you not, it's a spiritual thing that I go through.
Yeah.
You go over the bridge, I'm like, wow.
The sun is usually rising.
This is my church right here. Like it's an amazing experience, and we've been there so many times, and I still feel like that. I still get goosebumps every time I go there.
For sure.
I love that track.
Do you have a preference one series over the other?
I don't. No, I like them both for what they have to offer. I think the racing in MX-5 Cup is a little bit better just because those cars draft a little bit more. And the depth of talent in MX-5 Cup is just so deep. I mean, on any given weekend, there's probably 10 guys who can win the race. In GR Cup, it's a little bit less. It's probably about 4 or 5 that can win the race. But in GR Cup 2, it's also much more spaced out and more pace dependent in how your car is handling, which kind of puts you where you need to be. Like even the guy, like, you know, a guy in MX-5 Cup, they can have 6th place pace and still win the race. You can't win a GR Cup race with 6th place pace. Like you have to be
bigger disparity between across the field.
You have to be the fastest guy in GR Cup to win a GR Cup race.
You need both the car and the talent, whereas you can get a little bit luckier in the MX-5.
With racecraft, yes. In MX-5, you can get a little bit lucky. It's not even luck at that point. It's just
the chess that you talked about. I thought that was a great analogy of what it takes to win.
Yes.
Yeah. So you like both series, the same series. What about the cars? Which do you prefer, the MX-5 or the GR86?
Very similar to what I just explained. Like I like them both for different things, right? The GR Cup car is more of a driver's car, right? It feels more pointed to the ground. You feel more connected. You can really feel everything in the GR Cup car. In the MX-5 Cup car, you're kind of guessing where that car is going to be, right? You throw it into the corner and like you never really feel it take a set. Like you're kind of just on the ragged edge the whole time, driving it around the track. But that's also what makes it fun. And then the racing in MX-5 Cup, like I just explained, is very good. So I'll put it this way: I like to drive the GR Cup car more, and I like to race the MX-5 Cup car.
That makes sense.
This episode of Off the Racing Line is brought to you by Mission Foods and Garage ID's Pro Spec Miata.
Mission Foods and Garage ID's Pro Spec Miata, presented by Farah. 8 weekends, 6 legendary racetracks, over $100,000 in cash prizes, engines, major giveaways, and more on the line all season long, including an over 50 Legends class and top female prizes. All races live streamed. Don't miss a second. Pro Spec Miata 2026. Register now.
All right, let's talk about the Toyota development driver. How does one become one? You are one now.
Yes.
So how does that happen?
It's a
and what is it?
A very funny story, and also a full circle moment. So kind of like we talked about earlier in the podcast, right? My dad has always been a big Toyota fanatic, a big Lexus and Toyota guy. He has the Mark IV Supra and a few Lexuses, and I have Lexuses
Great car.
myself before I had even been in the conversation at Toyota. So a lot of the opportunities that have come my way have really been right place, right timing, right? So the GR Cup series got inaugurated in 2023. And I had kind of heard through the grapevine that my name was in the running to have a seat in GR Cup, and I didn't end up getting it that year. So Tyler Gonzalez was their first test mule for a sports car development driver in the Toyota program. Because in the past, most of the Toyota development drivers have been either involved in dirt or NASCAR. They haven't really put a sports car guy through their program, right? So I would honestly say Tyler Gonzalez was kind of the pioneer and opened the door for me to come into Toyota. So he won the GR Cup championship the first year, and they immediately moved him up to GT4, so that there was an open seat there, right? So my name was kind of, I think it was going across a couple of desks as a guy who could come in and compete for wins and championships and be the next sports car guy for Toyota. So I get in contact with the driver development manager. He's talking about testing me and different things like that. So we do a test at Carolina Motorsports Park, and that at the time is with Smooge Racing. I do the test. They're not telling me lap times. They taped the computer on the dash, so I couldn't see my laps or anything like that. Come to find out now who they were comparing me against, I was a second and a half faster than them. But at the time, I didn't know that. Everybody around me was just telling me I was doing a pretty good job.
Were you about as nervous as the shootout?
Honestly, no, because nobody really told me what it was. They were just like, hey, go down and test the car.
Go drive.
Nobody told me that it was like a test for this seat that, was going to really change my life, right? So I kind of just went down there and did my own thing. And I'm honestly glad I didn't know what it was because I think I would have been just as nervous as the MX-5 Cup Shootout. So I do the test ends, shake hands with everybody, good job. I leave. I never really knew what it was for, but I was glad I was able to have a chance to drive a GR Cup car. So then I get another call or a message or whatever it was. I can't exactly remember. And they want me to do a race at Road America. Well, they actually gave me options. So it was the last 3 races of GR Cup. It was Road America, Indianapolis, which was the last one, and I can't remember what was in between Indianapolis and Road America. I think it was VIR. Might have been VIR. And Road America was the earliest one, so I knew Road America at the time, so I'd said Road America because there might have been an opportunity to do the other two.
Sure.
So I do that race, and like I said, I podiumed in my first GR Cup race, and I think that kind of sealed the deal for me to come into the program.
So what is a development driver?
A Toyota development driver means you're funded by Toyota and not only represent Toyota, but represent their partners. So on my GR Cup car last year was JBL, which is the Toyota partner. JBL has a lot of speakers in some of the Toyota vehicles, production vehicles, things like that. And then this year it's Endava, which is an IT partner of Toyota. So that's kind of what it means to be a development driver.
Okay.
And they've fully funded my GR Cup racing for the past 2 years.
There's got to be a lot of expectations there. I mean,
yeah, for sure.
Is there a bit of pressure on you to perform?
Yes. So they kind of lay out all of those expectations when you first come in.
That's good.
Right?
At least you know.
And even in my my first year of GR Cup, they had wanted me to be the champion because Tyler, he set the bar very high, right? He was the champion his first year in GR Cup as a development driver, and I had to hold up to those standards. I ended up finishing third in the championship with a lot of seconds. The only reason we finished third, we broke a ball joint in the last race at Indy last year in GR Cup. So I finished third in the championship, and I was kind of like, man, am I gonna come back next year? I didn't live up to their expectations. So we had a meeting at the end of the year. They're like, yeah, it's okay. This is always a 2-year plan. So I was very relieved for that, and then they told me this year we want to see at least 4 or 5 wins and a championship, and we met those expectations this year, so I'm very happy to do that.
And then what does next year look like?
Well, that was actually my next question.
I can't say yet, but
I watched some of your interviews at PRI last weekend. And somebody asked that same question. So what's in store for next year? And you're like, I can't tell. So I was hoping that within a week,
time had passed.
you might be able to tell us what's.
Yeah, it'll be very exciting though. It'll be a full circle
big things for you next year.
Yes.
Well, if nothing else, at least the weather is better here than it was at PRI.
Yes.
I know a lot of people that I think spent a night in the airport there trying to get home.
All right. My goodness, we are running out of time. So let's go to our next segment, the double life. You're a college student, and you're a pro driver. You are attending the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. What are you studying?
So I'm studying business marketing at the moment. I was initially motorsports engineering, and I really wanted to pursue engineering just because I wanted to learn about everything that made a car go fast, right? The aerodynamics, the tire dynamics, the geometry, everything. And then it's interesting you asked that question because in my freshman year of college, that was when I became a Toyota development driver and won the MX-5 Cup scholarship simultaneously while I'm attending school.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it hit me like a truck. So I kind of realized I still really wanted to continue my education.
Yeah.
But trying to pursue an engineering degree was going to be very difficult.
I can imagine. Yeah.
And also too, like I kind of came to the realization I also never wanted to. I think it's good for me to have my own knowledge, but I never wanted to butt heads with my engineer as I keep moving up, right? Because from an engineering standpoint, right, the engineer doesn't want to be told what to do or how to do certain things, and as a driver, I don't want the engineer telling me how to drive or how I should be driving. Yeah. So
a little less input.
Yeah, exactly. that was kind of a realization I came to. So it kind of made sense for me to still continue my education.
Sure.
And with the way the industry and the market is going in motorsports, I thought, I could still apply a business marketing degree to motorsports because ultimately motorsports is what I want to do and pursue.
You are all in this world, man. Like, it's pretty fascinating to listen to you talk about that. It's just like there is no plan B.
Yeah, no,
like, this is it. That's awesome. Do your classmates know what you do?
Some of them do. I don't really talk about it much. I mean, they'll like
it doesn't come up?
The only time it'll come up is when I'll miss like a week or two or three of school, and then I'll come back. They're like, "Man, I thought you dropped out. Like, where have you been?" And I have to tell them like, "Oh, I was racing."
We asked Noah similar questions. Do professors give you a break? Like, hey, can I turn this in a little bit later?
Not really.
No,
they don't
really
care.
I'm a pro driver. It doesn't
they're
matter.
They're like, okay, get it done.
Yes.
You're not getting any grace, and I don't want any grace, right? Like, I'm in there trying to get the same things that everybody else wants, but I have a life outside of school that is also very important to me.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked Noah Harmon, which he loved.
I probably know what it is.
Do you ever use the line, "I am a pro driver," to try to pick up chicks?
Honestly, I've never used it. I think it, depending on who it is, I think it may help me in the long run. Like, because I think everybody wants a person who's driven and has goals and things like that. But I've never opened up with that.
Is your mind so into just getting the job done that maybe just girls are just sort of secondary right now?
Yes, I would say so.
That's amazing. You're 20 years old. All I could think about 20 was
priorities straight.
I certainly did not at
Correct.
20.
Well, I mean, look at where you are and look at where he is.
Okay, I have no comeback for that.
I would just say I'm very focused.
Yeah.
I have high expectations for myself, and I don't want any outside factors.
You know what you kind of reminded me of? Have you seen that movie Whiplash? The drummer. Okay, you should watch it. He's trying to be a drummer for this jazz band in a New York school, university, and it takes dedication. And so he meets this girl, and they hit it off, and they're starting to really like each other, and he finally realizes that he doesn't have time for her because this curriculum takes so much, and for him to just practice. So he sits down with her, and he says, "You are a distraction, and we can't see each other anymore."
Don't ever say that to a woman, by the way.
They don't like that.
No, do not take well to that.
No. But I mean, he was gonna end it anyway, so
go out with a ball of flame.
All right, let's see what our next segment is. Oh, rapid fire. Here we go. So we're gonna shoot off rapid fire questions.
All right. I have to answer as fast as possible, right?
Well,
nobody else does, so don't feel any pressure to do that.
Sebring.
Yes.
And you're saying that he's welcome back anytime. Right. So I don't feel so bad answering Sebring every time. He's just such a fantastic course, right?
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. And I beat him a couple times over there. So.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Let's talk about how many times you beat me and how many times I beat you.
No.
You don't want to talk about that?
That's Sebring. That's
Are
Sebring.
you sure you don't want to talk about that?
I own
We
you
can
at
talk-
Sebring.
You should have me on as a guest,
I like this competition.
just so I can
Yeah.
talk the entire time. And
Okay.
remind people of how many times
We
you
are
beat
not
me
going
and
to
how
do
many
that.
times I
Westin
beat
Workman is our guest,
Yes.
so we're going to continue. Number 2, who was a bigger wreck after you won the GR Cup Championship? We already asked this
Yeah, you
question.
did ask that question.
So you said it was
Yes,
pretty much
it
a
was
tie
a tie,
all across
yes.
the board. Okay.
If anybody, though, I would say my mom.
Your mom.
Yes.
Is she a big supporter of what you're
She
doing?
is,
Does she ever get
yes.
scared?
She doesn't watch the races. Yeah, she's very, very scared, very nervous.
That makes sense.
And even at Sebring, she had to ask the people who she was watching the race with if
Yeah.
I won or not, because she had her back turned to the TV the whole time.
That makes a lot of sense.
Let's go to the real hard-hitting questions. Are you a mama's boy? Yeah. I prefer not
No
to
need
answer.
to answer that.
No comment.
All right. This has become one of my favorite questions. I think you know what's coming. You are given a choice to either do one race in the NASCAR Cup
NASCAR
Series.
Cup Series.
Not a boy.
Just let me. I have
I'll
to
let you
finish
the-
just
I'll let-
for
yeah,
the show,
I'll let
but-
you finish the question.
or go out on a date with Sydney Sweeney.
I don't understand the hype. I'm taking
Sydney Sweeney?
I'm taking the Cup race all day long.
I have a confession to make. I have no idea who Sydney Sweeney is.
All right, we're just gonna move on. I can't
I
relate
already
to
know what
either.
you're
of you.
I have a
No.
funny celebrity story about dinner that you'll have to have me back on as a guest, and I'll share.
Yeah,
one time.
we are gonna do that.
Good.
We're gonna do when you're a guest and I'm a guest. We're gonna talk about the progression of the show, but that's later on. Maybe the 1 year mark. We're gonna do that
Yeah, that sounds a good idea.
with David Maher.
Perfect.
All right, let's continue. This is the time where my glasses start failing me. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. What exposes mediocre drivers more, rain or low horsepower cars?
Ooh. I want to say low horsepower cars just because it's my bread and butter. It's what
Yeah.
I do. Rain. I would say low horsepower cars for sure, because even in MX5 Cup and even in GR Cup, like
Yeah.
we've had guys who are much higher than that of a GR Cup or an MX5 Cup, like, you know, a GT3 driver
Sure.
or even a prototype driver like we had this year at Martinsville. And they come in, and I think, you know, sometimes some of them, you know, have a level head and like understand
Yeah.
the low horsepower stuff. And then some of them are very surprised that, you know, what we can do behind the wheel of a low horsepower car.
Sure.
So yeah, I would say a low horsepower car for sure.
So
Just because of the drivers who have came back to MX5 Cup
Yeah.
and don't do as well.
So an interesting side note on that one, you know, you're going to be hanging out with us here at
But
Miami.
I wouldn't say they're mediocre just because they don't perform well.
It
in a
exposes-
low horsepower
Right.
car.
They're exponentially better than Carlos or I, for example.
Right.
We're truly
I
mediocre.
wouldn't even say that, because there's very good drivers who have came to MX5 Cup and probably not performed as well as they wanted to, but
Right.
that doesn't take away from the accolades that they have in many other series that they
Sure.
raced in. For example, Jesse Love, who was the Xfinity Series champion this year, he came and ran a few races with us this year in MX5 Cup. He ran at Mid-Ohio, and even last year at Sebring, he ran a race. And I think he finished somewhere within the top 15, but
Yeah.
it goes to show like how competitive MX5 Cup
Sure.
really is in the low horsepower
Well,
racing.
Yeah, maybe that question was more geared towards, you know, track day enthusiasts, you know, not racers that are just can drive the pants off anything.
Oh, okay.
You come to a
I see
track
what you're
day,
saying.
you come to a track day and it starts raining and
Everybody parks.
Then-
everybody's
Yes.
and that's when they should be out there.
Correct.
In that context, I would say rain then,
Rain
for sure.
exposes
for
them,
sure.
yeah.
Because it exposes your experience level, right? Because you'll know as soon as it starts raining who has experience in the rain and who doesn't. Like
Yeah.
who starts to find the grip, who avoids the rubber, who's breaking off line, who's deep into the ABS, all different types of things that go in the rain racing that
Yeah.
not applicable to driving in the dry.
I think it was the 2024 season with NASA, the time trial series that I was involved in. I won that championship that year because it was raining so hard and my competition didn't have dry tires. They just had slicks.
Right.
So I was like, I put my dry tires on. Sorry, my
Wet
my
tires,
wet tires. I went out there and I was gone. I ended up winning because of that.
Well, it's the only way you were going to win.
Well, no, the next
I mean,
day.
you set them up like that. How do you expect me not to knock it out of the park?
All right. You know what's interesting? You're here hanging out with us, Miami Homestead Speedway with Farah this weekend, and we have you coaching one of our drivers, HPDE drivers. I talked to him. He says, "Hey, I think he's coming in from New York. Fantastic guy. He's like he drives the GT3. So,
Porsche?
what's that?
GT3 Porsche?
Yes, GT3.
Okay.
So he's like, hey, so I'm renting this MX5. You think that's okay? Like, I'm coming from a GT3, and I'm thinking, well, Weston's going to be in the car with
You'll
them.
probably
Like,
be okay.
I can't think of a better scenario for you to get actually faster.
Right.
To be going from a GT3 to an MX5 and learn how to get out of the corner, or just really carry more speed through a corner, where the GT3 you just smash it and gets you out of there.
Right.
So you're gonna have your hands full, but I think
I'm
he's gonna have
excited for it.
I think he's gonna have a
Yes.
blast.
Yes.
All right, let's continue.
See how it's not really a rapid fire segment?
Well, I also look at the time and I'm like, oh man, we got plenty of time, so it's not so much rapid fire. All right, number 5. Who do you secretly judge more, car meet heroes or sim racing experts?
Car meet heroes. There's no skill to being a car meet hero, and there's no accolades for being a car meet hero either. It always ends in tears. You see so many videos. Now, it's funny you ask that because, you know, a lot of time the stereotype now is Mustang drivers, right? But I've seen a lot of people crashing
BMWs.
G80 M3s now, the
BMW.
BMW.
It's
like
horrible.
that seems like the new Mustang. Like every next reel I see on Instagram is a BMW crashing, leaving a car meet. So
I'm gonna have to change the joke I tell about. So I teach the classroom
Yes.
as far as HPD Academy, and I use the famous clips of Mustangs leaving cars
yep.
of coffee to
Yep.
talk about oversteer and understeer. So
Now it's
gonna have
BMW.
to change to the BMW.
Yeah.
Got to stay current with the times.
All right. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those
Yeah.
too. It hurts
And-
my feelings because I'm a.
and to the sim racer point, there's a lot of good sim racers now.
Yes.
A lot of good sim racers.
Yeah.
And even when I come on the sim, some of those guys I can't even compete with.
Oh, yeah.
I did the GR Cup Esports League last year, and running at the front of the GR Cup, I come into the sim race. I'm like, it's just a sim race.
Yeah, I got this.
I was getting, they handed it to me, boy. I'll tell you.
Did you use your real name or an alias?
I use my real name. I shouldn't
Oh,
have used
yeah,
my real
now,
name.
yeah. If you knew then, you'd have been like, yeah, it's a
exactly.
Fred Smith here.
If I'm sitting there at home and I see a Westin Workman, I'm
Right.
like, oh, I got him. All right. Number 6. Toughest competitor of 2025 in either series.
In 2024, I would say Gresham Wagner.
Okay.
2025, this year, who was my toughest competitor this year? I would say Jackson Bell. He was my teammate last year on Copeland and GR Cup. This year, we were on different teams. And we were kind of fighting each other for the championship this year in GR Cup. So I would, if I was to say one person, I would say Jackson Bell. But there's too many names to name in MX5 Cup.
There's just a lot of great drivers there.
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking of something, but I'm not going to mention it. Are you chasing greatness or trying not to disappoint the people that believe in you?
I find myself in a battle of that a lot of
Yeah?
the times. I'm chasing greatness, but I would say I'm sometimes driven by not disappointing the people around
There's a
me.
lot of people behind you.
Yes, there's so many people that support me, and it would be the last thing I want to do is to disappoint them. So I would say it's a mix of both for sure. But I'm definitely chasing greatness.
I find it fascinating that, again, you're only 20 years old. We're talking about the Toyota development driver, sponsorships. There's a lot of pressure, a lot of people, expecting things and hoping the best for you. How do you deal with all that? This is outside of the rapid fire. I'm curious how you deal with that pressure. Is there something that you do outside of racing?
Not necessarily. I try my best not to think about it because, like I said, with the MX5 Cup Shootout, right, when you start thinking about all the pressure, that's when you start to get nervous. So I do my best to try to tune a lot of that stuff out. Honestly, I can't tell you how I do it. It just honestly doesn't really come to mind. And I think this year has been a really eye-opening year in terms of that, and trying to put that behind me and just do what I want and what's best for me.
Do you ever wonder what it would be like to race against your dad? Did you guys ever talk about that?
No, I don't want to know, and I don't think he wants to know either. But
maybe with some sort of handicap or something.
I've tried to get him in a go-kart, like a little indoor go-kart, but he never wants to do it.
No,
I don't know why.
not doing that.
He has no interest. But I would love to do it.
It sounds like you're better at hockey than he is at driving. Is that a safe assumption?
I would say so, yeah.
That actually would be a fair,
one-on-one hockey?
Yeah, like I'll race you, but then we go play hockey.
Yeah.
There you go.
That would be a good competition. I'd like to see that.
All right, so the next question, when I wrote it, I'm like, this is a good one. I got him, but you already answered it, so here it is. It's already a disappointment. If Toyota said no dating this season, would you listen or risk the contract? I mean, you're not risking anything.
No, I'm not risking anything. This career is what I want for a lifetime. I would do nothing to jeopardize
We are
it.
such different 20-year-olds. When I was 20, I was like, dude, bye.
Right, exactly. Yes. Well, you mentioned career, and that at 16 you realized that you were too old to pursue an open wheel career. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now at 30?
I want to be a factory driver for a manufacturer in the IMSA series or in some type of endurance series, whether it's WEC, IMSA, SRO, any sports car series. I think because I'm on the sports car path now, and I think but besides all that, my philosophy has always been I just want to have a successful career in motorsports, no matter where it is. I don't have a specific series or goal that I want to compete in. I just want to be successful wherever I am.
So how long until we see you at your favorite track at the 12 hours?
Realistically,
soon.
3 or 4 years,
Okay.
I would say. And hold me to it.
All right.
Hold me to it.
We'll have you back on.
3 or 4
Yes.
years.
Right.
Yes. You will come back, right?
Yes.
All right.
I'd love to come back.
Final question of the rapid fire segment, which was absolutely not rapid at all.
20 minutes ago.
Yes, 20 minutes. Who has been your favorite teammate?
Favorite teammate? Ooh.
It's not Sydney Sweeney. We know that.
She would be my favorite.
I would say
I don't care how fast or slow she is.
I would say 2 come to mind for very different reasons. So the first one I would say is Gresham Wagner, just because he really pushed me past what I thought my ceiling was or what I thought my limit was.
Yeah.
He was always beating me by 5+ seconds every race.
Really?
Sometimes it was even 10 or 15 seconds. Like this dude was an alien in a GR Cup car. And I would finish second, and I would come in like, dude, that was everything I had. Like, how
What
is
are you
he
doing?
it? So I would say him just because he beat me so much and how much he pushed me indirectly to better myself and become better as a racing driver. And then the second one, I would say Tyler Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Just because of how big of a help he's been this year. He's been racing MX-5 Cup for a very, very long time now. I think he did his first MX-5 Cup race when he was 13 or so. So he knows those cars like the back of his hand. He was always one I could just go to and ask for advice on the MX-5 Cup car. So I would say Gresham from just pushing me past my limit standpoint, and then Tyler just for advice and knowledge.
Right. Teammates become sort of crucial, right?
They do.
In that series.
Yes, and my teammate next year will be even more crucial because it'll be a 2-driver format. That's the only hint I'll give for what I'm doing next year. So I'll have a co-driver.
Interesting. All right. We're going to move on to our guest challenge. This is when you have a chance to challenge 2 of your friends to come on the podcast. So if you want to look straight into, what camera is it?
The middle one.
The middle one, right?
Right there, you get to challenge 2 of your friends.
I challenge Tyler Gonzalez and Elio Meza to come on the Off the Racing Line podcast.
Good choices.
Very good.
Yeah. All right. Hey, listen, it's been great having you here. It's fantastic that you flew in from North Carolina.
Thank you for having me.
Pretty awesome.
Yes.
And we get to hang out with you all weekend here in Miami, where it's nice and warm, scorching 80 degrees in the winter. Remember, everything interesting happens off the racing line. See you guys next time.
Everything interesting happens off the racing line. I took the hard road. I've earned these stripes. The road from dreamer to driver ain't always straight. Kept my head down. Fueled by faith, I lost some time, but found my name. Pressure made a diamond out of me. I've arrived.